Hello viewers, thank you for tuning in to Mr. and Mrs. B's Brain Dump. And this is going to be a vlog about what happened in New York City with the Range Rover and the mob of bikers, whatever you want to call it, the ride out that went wrong. And the reason I'm doing this vlog is to share my opinion of what happened, why it happened, based on all the facts that I've been able to glean from videos before the event, after the event, during the event, news reports, and some of the stuff that's been said by the newspapers about the details of the perpetrators, whatever you want to call it, the people involved. And so I'm doing this little vlog to give you my opinion, so that if anyone asks me, because it's been asked a lot all over the place, many vloggers, what do you think? What do you think about the situation? What do you think about what happened? What's your opinion? So rather than me trying to type a response with the restriction of 500 characters in YouTube, I'm doing this vlog about it. So let's begin at the beginning and let you know what I've gleaned from YouTube and the internet in general and newspaper reports. So I've looked at all the videos before the incident. I've obviously looked at the video of the incident, and I've looked at some of the partial statements and eyewitness accounts and stuff and everything else. And when I've put all that together, I've formed this opinion. And the opinion is this. Starting at the beginning, my biggest issue with the whole saga, terrible saga, was, okay, here we go, let's try and get this vlog done, crying out loud. Right, so what happened in New York? Really? What happened in New York? Right, my first problem with the whole thing was that the police didn't get involved in the organisation. The police did not support the ride. The police did not escort the ride. There was no visible police presence at all. That's my first problem. And my most... what's the word? My biggest issue with the whole thing was the lack of police visible presence. There was unmarked police within the group, and from what I've seen, that didn't help. There was no visible police presence. There was no police escort. And that's my first problem. The next problem is that it wasn't properly organised. And if you look at some of the, if you can still find it, a lot of it's been taken down from YouTube, but if you look at the very beginning, when it all started in terms of the ride out, there were many bikes among the, in some cases it was like the few law-abiding riders, many bikes that were breaking all the laws of the road and not wearing crash helmets, probably not legal on the bike. A few of those bikes weren't legal. There were quads, there were people without crash helmets, and the best way I can sum up the riding prior to the event was, if you can imagine a dangerous prison, if you can imagine a high security prison with a lot of very nasty criminals, and outside in the parking lot was a selection of motorcycles and quads and scramblers and crossers and sports bikes, and they were all given the keys to those bikes, and then they broke jail. Then I think I've summed up what the beginning of that ride out looked like. because there were many without crash helmets, many without license plates, many illegal bikes, and they were a majority of them, let's not say majority, I would say about 50% of them were doing and breaking the law in many ways. Firstly, by not wearing crash helmets, doing wheelies, taking no consideration of other drivers and riders on the road, riding on pavements, footpaths, pedestrian areas, ignoring the lanes of the road, ignoring other traffic on the road. It looked like a jailbreak of criminals on bikes. Now, that's not the norm in the law-abiding bike riders fraternity, for a start. So that those car drivers that have watched that on YouTube, let me just tell you now that law-abiding bike riders in organised ride-outs do not behave in that manner whatsoever. That was definitely not a typical example of a ride-out of an organised, law-abiding collection of riders. So just bear that in mind, and bear that in mind also for the rest of my opinion, my vlog on the incidents that occurred in New York. So, with that said, that's it, mate. Make no effort to move over at all. With that said, thank you, love. Let's move on to the point past where there was no police presence, organised police, that is, no visible police presence to stop all of that lawlessness that went on. The illegal riders, the criminals on bikes, basically, and the lack of organisation for the event. And move on to the actual event. So the riders are obviously harassing drivers, trying to get them to pull over, get out of the way, as if they own the road. This continues for over an hour, many miles, in the footage before the incident. And they happen across, and of course a lot of car drivers are pulling over and getting out of the way, as you would obviously with a horde of motorcycles coming at you from behind, doing wheelies and all sorts of stupid stuff on the main highway. Nothing stupid about wheelies, it's just a time and a place, isn't there? And it's not on a freeway with other cars. Anyway, so you see that lot coming, they're all getting out of the way. And this goes on for quite a while, and the guys at the front of the group have obviously got this power thing going on, like everyone's going to get out of the way, everyone's going to get out of the way. And they come across the Range Rover, who's driving in the middle lane, doing nothing wrong. And what he should have done at that point, I know he didn't have to, and I know the law says he was quite within his rights, but just common sense now, common sense. There's over 100 bikers coming up behind you, swarming all around you. What should you do? You should pull over and let them get out of the way, let them do their thing, call the police if they're being stupid, and get out of the way, let them carry on, let the police deal with that. Okay? But anyway, he didn't pull over. He stayed in his lane, he stayed doing his speed, his quite within his rights to do so. I'm not sure common sense was prevailing there, but he did. Okay. Now I think some bikers might have taken offence to the fact that he didn't get out of the way. That's my opinion. To the point where one of them decided to brake check him as they were surrounding the vehicle. Now I don't know if he brake checked or he just might have just come off the throttle, because you know how quickly these bikes decelerate, especially the one he was riding. Anyway, which caused a nudge. The SUV nudged the back tyre of the rider. It didn't knock him off, it just nudged the back tyre. So the driver of the SUV stopped. And obviously at that point you would expect an exchange of any insurance details, check for damage, you know, all the usual sort of things that go on in an incident like that. However, that's not what happened. What happened is the group at the front obviously got a bit upset about the fact that there was contact, and some of the other riders then got off their bikes and started setting about the SUV, attacking it, and evidence shows later on they actually managed to slash the tyres on the back, on the offside tyre. Just trying to think now ways. Might be the near side if it's US, I don't know. But basically the side that you can't normally see in the footage on the rear is the tyre that gets slashed. So that slowly starts going flat. Now before that even happened, of course, the guy's surrounded, they're attacking the car, and he's got his 2-year-old son in the car on the back seat, which is where most of the riders are attacking the vehicle, and his wife, and clearly he fears for his life and his family's life, and he's blocked by bikes in front of him. What are you going to do? You're going to flee. And he did. And in order for that to happen, unfortunately, he caught a pedestrian, a rider, let's say, who was then a pedestrian, and obviously had to go over some bikes as well, because he had nowhere to go basically, and he fled. Rightly or wrongly, I'm afraid if I'm being attacked by 100+ people in my car with my family and my 2-year-old son, tell you what I'm going to do, I'm going to fucking floor it and get out of there. But what the driver should have done then is he should have maintained a slow speed, give himself plenty of room and time to dial 911 and get them to come to his assistance and sort out the mess that has now ensued from that. However, he doesn't. He goes off at speed, and obviously a lot of the bikers didn't see what originally happened, so they're enraged, and I was enraged when I first saw it. I was like, what? Get that mother in that SUV. What on earth's he doing? He's driving over people and bikes. He's a crazy guy. But I would have like, I would have just gone after him. Call the police, dial 911, get on the bike, and I would have kept my distance, because obviously if he's already ridden over a couple of people and bikes already, he's going to do it again. Keep your distance and you follow him and follow him and follow him until you get that police assistance and let the police deal with it. What happened though was that he continued driving at speed and thought to himself, probably at some point, I don't know, I wasn't in his head, but I'm guessing he stopped again because he wanted to sort things out, because obviously he knew what had gone on and there was many things probably going through his mind at the time. He stopped. Now the bikers that are coming up upon him now are absolutely enraged after what they've seen, and they're not going to talk to him. No, they want him out of that car, and they want to do their own justice. They're not going to call the police. Well, they'll probably call the police, but they're certainly going to try and dish out some of their own justice. So one of them gets the door open. Now, why on earth the door wasn't locked? Anyway, the door wasn't locked, so one of the riders gets the door open, and of course the guy panics again, flees, hits a couple of more bikes out of the way, no pedestrians this time from what I saw, and he's off again. Now this continues, and he's being chased again. Of course, he's not going to outrun a load of bikes, no chance. Now the tyre's starting to go flat on the back now, and eventually he's going to end up on the rims, and if he continues along the highway, in my opinion, he's going to end up being immobilised in the middle of a freeway, in the middle of nowhere, with 100+ bikers that want to have a word with him. That's not good. So I think he comes off the road deliberately. He deliberately comes off of that freeway into a built-up area where he can seek assistance from public, and hopefully in his case some assistance from the police to sort this out. Now unfortunately there are no police apart from the ones that are off duty that are riding the bikes, and some have been actually accused of being involved as well, it might be added. No police come to his aid, and you see the rest. One of the riders smashes the driver's window with his crash helmet, and they in front of his wife and 2-year-old son, drags him out, and then they beat him up. And I think he was probably saved by a bystander there. Well, not bystander, because they intervened. He's probably saved from being killed by someone that intervened and said, "That's enough, stop it," in so many words, and stopped the beating that was being received. So that's the turn of events. My opinion on all of that is, firstly, I'm disgusted the police didn't get that organised and did not support it and did not escort it and did not actively manage that massive group of bikers that, as far as I'm aware, they knew was coming, and it should have been policed properly. If the police didn't know, I take that statement back. If they did know, I'm disgusted, and if it's probably, a lot of it's down to the police then, in that case, the reason why that was allowed to happen. The next point I have is the fact that I want to say now to any of the car drivers on viewing this that are enraged by what they saw and are saying things like, all bikers, I'm going to run all bikers over and all that sort of stuff. Calm down, wind your neck in, right? Because what you saw there was an example of criminals on bikes. The fraternity on here that does this vlogging like I'm doing now are law-abiding riders who would be probably one of the first people to assist you in your car if you needed it for whatever reason. We'd stop by, we'd help, check you're okay. That's what we do. We're a friendly group of law-abiding citizens, riders, and I myself are disgusted about what happened there, and also the bad name that they've put upon riders in general. And I just want to say that's not a typical example of motorcycle riders. That's a typical example of lawless riders. And one other little piece of advice to riders and car drivers: if you're in that sort of event, or you see that sort of event coming your way, and people are doing stupid things, as in riders doing wheelies around cars and in places what aren't appropriate, and speeding and all those other things, breaking the law, riding on paths, pavements, pedestrian areas, if you're a rider, get away from that. Step away from that, get away from it. Don't get yourself involved in that. Disassociate yourself, and if you've got anything about you, you'll call the police and say, look, this ride out's got our hand, there's some bad apples in there, and they're spoiling it for everybody and being dangerous. If you're a car driver and you see this coming up upon you, I'm not on about an organised ride out here with an escort or just basically people being law-abiding riders. I'm on about the similar situation here where there's a mob coming at you on bikes doing all sorts of stupid stuff. The advice is, pull over, let them get out of the way, let them get on with it, call the police and handle it that way. I know you've got a right to be on the road, I know you don't have to pull over if you don't want to, but use some common sense. If you've got a mob of bikers like that who are not following the rules of the law on the road, pull over and let them get on with it. Call the police before one of them kills themselves doing wheelies or other stupid stuff. So there we go. That's my opinion based on all the evidence I can gather at the moment, and if there's any of that evidence is false, then I retract information or opinions based on it, if that makes sense. And I just want to say, what else do I want to say? I'm dismayed. It's a terrible thing. It's not an example of law-abiding riders. And I hope that the car drivers that are enraged by what they saw don't simply associate every single rider as being a criminal and have the common sense to know that the vast majority of riders on motorcycles are law-abiding, friendly, helpful people. Okay, so that's my summary really, and that's the end of my discussion, my opinion on the New York thing. And obviously like it, dislike it, and if you are going to dislike it, that's fine. It'd be handy if you could actually tell me why. You're going to indicate, mate, no? But if you don't want to, you just want to dislike it, then fine. I don't have an issue with the dislike button. You know, I don't know what your thoughts. I don't know what your thoughts are on it. It's difficult, really. It's such a massive subject, and there's so many elements to it. It's hard to respond in 500 characters. It really is. I tried to, couldn't, so I've done this vlog. But my biggest problem out of it all is that it was allowed to happen in the first place. If the police knew that this event was happening, it should have been properly policed, visible police presence. All of the criminals, and as far as I'm aware, according to what's come out, a lot of the people involved in the actual altercation with the driver all had previous for all sorts of stuff. Any of those that want, obviously, you know, I'm not talking about you guys. I'm on about the ones that have got previous and clearly a history of not obeying the law. I just trying to point out really that everyone on a bike is not a criminal. Most of them are law-abiding, friendly people.